Somebody needs to play Jeopardy music.
Well, Commissioner Zaremski's back. Can you hear us now? Wave. Okay, so she can hear us, so we're good. And
you're on mute.
I'm on mute?
I can hear you and I can talk.
All right.
Okay, so we now move to the part of the salute to the flag, and Vice Chair Klinger has graciously agreed to lead us in that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The public, the audio, they're not able to hear at this moment.
Yeah.
So Vicky suggested we wait until it's fixed. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll wait.
I'm sorry for the delay. I hope I didn't stall your meeting.
Nope. Oh, no, it's going to be a quick meeting, so at least I anticipate it to be.
Okay. We are good to go now.
Okay. So, Vice Chair Klinger, can you lead us in the salute to the flag?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Klinger. As I've started off each of these meetings, just to tell you again what the purpose of the Historical Commission is, and that is to investigate, maintain, and catalog all historical information, documents, records, and pictures that would be of general interest to the city and its citizens, to compile records and recordings, to promote the keeping of written historical record of the city in narrative form, to be an advisory body, and to perform volunteer services at the Redondo Beach Historical Meeting. And now we move to the part of the agenda where we approve the order of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the order?
So
Okay, so I see Commissioner Fernandez raise his hand, and Commissioners are actually beat you to it by raising her hand at the same time as Commissioner Fernandez. Great. So I guess after last meeting, we learned that we have to take roll call votes on all of these. So at least on the approving the agenda, I think if there any objection to approving the order of the agenda, okay, hearing none, then that's our agenda. Are there any blue folder items? Director Harding?
No, Chair, not tonight. No blue folder.
Okay. And that means we move to the consent.
Sorry to interrupt one more time. There was a suggestion for everybody to mute your computers except the chair. Hopefully it fixes the problem.
Okay. And I'll mute when I'm not talking.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we move to the consent calendar, and there are 4 items on the consent calendar: the affidavit of posting, the approval of the June 16, 2021 minutes, the museum donation fund report, and the Albert P. Arizmendez Moment of History in Redondo Beach History, which is actually this month's Golden State Fireworks Manufacturing Display Explosion. So is there any commissioner that wishes to remove an item from the consent calendar? And I see Commissioner Klinger's hand up. Yes.
Yes, motion to remove item F2 from the consent calendar.
Okay, you don't need to make a motion because you're a commissioner.
Right.
So we'll remove that. Anybody else wish to remove anything from the consent calendar? Okay, so we will now take a vote on the consent calendar items F1, affidavit for posting, F3, museum donation fund report, F4, the Albert P. Arizmendez Redondo Beach history. Can we get a roll call, please, Director Harding?
Absolutely. Commissioner Klinger.
Aye.
Commissioner Warstad is absent. Commissioner Zaremski.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Aye.
Commissioner Pepper is absent. Commissioner Fernandez.
Aye.
And Chair Morocco.
Aye. Okay, so we've approved that matters on the consent calendar. Now we move to the excluded consent calendar, and Commissioner Klinger removed item F2. Do you want to speak to that, Commissioner Klinger?
I do. I would just like to make two relatively minor changes to the minutes. One of the things that the minutes say is Commissioner Jacob. It should spell Commissioner Barbarigos because we call our commissioners by the last name. So I can spell that into the record if that would work.
Okay, I think that was in one of the subcommittee reports, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
do you know what page it's on?
I believe
it looks like it's item J2, joint fundraising subcommittee. It says Commissioner Jacob with the Parks and Recs.
Yeah, bottom of page 9. Okay,
why don't you go ahead and spell it so we get the correction?
Okay, so the correct spelling of that one, I believe, is Barbarigos, Varvarigos.
Okay, and since I think Director Harding actually has him as a commissioner, they'll make sure that the correct spelling gets in. Any other changes that you?
Yes, the Native American tribe, it's spelled as Cowinga. It should be spelled as Chowigna. So let me point out where that is in the minutes.
It's on page 3 in the same joint fundraising subcommittee report, third line from the bottom of that. And why don't you spell that for the record?
Okay, so that one is spelled Chowigna.
Okay, great. Any other changes? Anybody?
Nope. And with those two corrections, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Is there a second? Commissioner Fernandez seconded. Can we get a roll call?
Second.
Yep. Commissioner Klinger.
Hey.
Commissioner Warstad is absent. Commissioner Zaremski.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Aye.
Commissioner Peppers absent. Commissioner Fernandez.
Aye.
And Chair Morocco.
Aye. And before I move on from that, I just want to clear with the staff, are there any public comments on either the consent calendar or the excluded item?
City Clerk.
There are no public comments or any attendees for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we now move to public participation on non-agenda item. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on this agenda for action. The section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. So going back to the staff person, is there anybody that wishes to be part of this public participation?
City Clerk, is there anybody that wishes to speak on public participation?
No, there are no comments, e-comments, or any attendees. Thank you.
Okay. We will now move to items continued from previous agenda. I don't believe there are any, so we'll move to the next item, which is item J, items for discussion prior to action. And there are 2 items on this part of the agenda. One is the Historical Commission subcommittee reports, and we do not have any written reports this month, but I believe we have a number of oral reports. So I'm going to go through our committees again, and we'll get oral reports. So the first one is oral history. And just as an update, I have completed several more oral histories since our last meeting. And anybody on the commission or in the public that knows somebody that you think would be a good person to interview, please notify myself or Director Harding so that we can get that scheduled. We now move to the next, and at the end of it, we'll do the motion to approve as filed for all these reports. Joint Fundraising Committee, Commissioner Klinger.
We do have an update. We are slowly proceeding on the Wilderness Park plan to get that as a historical landmark that we were designated by the Historical Commission, making it our primary focus. currently we already have all of the motions that we need. It's just that with everything that's been going on, things are taking a little bit more time than we anticipate. But we will have a detailed subcommittee report prepared by Commissioner Warstadt for our October meeting. I've also been crafting a political path to let the landmark bid sail through once it gets submitted to the state. So we're working, we're getting things done. It's a relatively active subcommittee. It's just with everything else that's going on, it's taking a little bit more time than we've anticipated. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question on that. Given our presentation by the city attorney last week, does it make sense to change the name of joint fundraising to really something similar to like Wilderness Park Landmark? So it's clear what the purpose is and it's not just some vague term that's floating out there?
I can definitely talk to my fellow subcommittee members about a potential name change, but I wouldn't recommend the name change at this point in time because we haven't discussed it. And the other thing is we are going to need to raise funds for the plaque. So fundraising is definitely a part of it.
Okay.
As one of the rules of the historical landmark designation is that we have to raise a certain amount for our own plaque.
Okay, great. I just thought that I'd bring it up because that way if somebody looks at the minutes, they can actually say, oh, they're working specifically on it rather than trying to guess which group. Okay, Let's move to the museum fundraising committee. Any report on that?
No report on that.
Is this a functioning committee? I'm curious as we're going into the next term in October.
It has not functioned ever since COVID started.
Okay, so we'll talk. I guess we'll put it on the agenda next month to see what we want to do with it, or at least try to have some sort of scope set out so that when we have these meetings, we can see as well as the public can see what it is.
Of
Traveling museum.
Chair, I'm very open to that, especially regarding to this subcommittee because I'm the only one on it. And in order to have their best, subcommittees need at least 2 commissioners on them. Hopefully, we'll set up 3 commissioners. So I'm definitely very open to modifying that subcommittee or even suspending it if it helps us move forward.
Okay, I was just clarifying. Traveling museum, I believe you were going to present a written report. Are you presenting an oral report?
Commissioner Russell, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. So initially, my plan was to draft a motion to amend the project and add some additional components as far as what we were focusing on, taking it beyond just a K through 12 audience. In light of the fact that I'm actually going to be leading Redondo Beach area in the near future, I thought it probably wouldn't be best if I was adjusting current commissions or making recommendations for changes. So I think it makes more sense just to maybe leave it as is, and I could help make any transition that's needed in continuing on with what the initial plan was.
Okay.
So no updates or no new motions at all.
Okay.
And just to clarify it a little bit further, one of my goals for the Traveling Museum Subcommittee was to train someone to be chair and eventually take over the subcommittee, and I would help run it until we got 2 other commissioners appointed. So with the potential departure that's just been mentioned, the subcommittee is on hold. But let me know if anybody wants to volunteer as tribute for this subcommittee, and we can have a one-on-one that would not break any Brown Act rules because it would just be a one-on-one conversation if you're interested in joining that specific subcommittee, and I'll get you up to speed. The same goes for the other subcommittees except for the joint fundraising one because that one's fairly active that I currently chair, because eventually I'm only looking to chair that one subcommittee. I don't want to hold the record for being the person that chairs the most subcommittees. So that's my update on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will add my personal thoughts that we're really sad to see you move, Commissioner Russell. We'd love if you would stay in Redondo Beach and maybe have your family move and you stay here. But
I'll ask my wife if I'm allowed to do that, and I'll let you know what she says. But
but we were very happy to have you on the commission. You're a very valuable member of the group. On the same subject, just Commissioner Klinger, since we brought it up at the last meeting about the proposal, I wanted to at least give you some thoughts with regards to what I think you need to have addressed in the report. Basically, since we are fiduciaries of the museum. So here are some of my suggestions: that we have a limited pool of items to start the project so we can see how it works. We need to have a proposed checkout procedure if we're going to do something like that. And we have to figure out how long we would lend it out. With the K through 12, it's a little easier than the general community-wide lending things. Again, with K through 12, it was easier to figure out what the kids were going to be doing with it. But if for the adults in the community, are we looking for a product from the community in return? So, for example, a video of some sort of city artifact. So that's something to think about. There's insurance issues. I believe that all the items in the museum are insured, and there may be some insurance policies that need to be looked at to see if you can even do this with the city asset. I also think that we need to have one commissioner that is responsible for the item. So if it gets checked out, that commissioner is the one that needs to be the one following up to make sure that it does get returned, and basically be a sponsor for the person. You may need to develop an application for people wanting to check out something, which may include stuff like we just talked about what are they going to use the item to produce for the museum. Do we charge a late fee if it's not timely returned? What's going to happen if the artifact is lost or damaged? Do we want a deposit for somebody checking it out in the community? And then we need to clarify what is the city policy for the public using city assets. And I'm looking at the example of the 5 presidential letters. We don't know where it is. And again, that's why I'm suggesting we need some sort of somebody taking responsibility for the member of the community using the thing, but we need to find out what the policies are. And then good news for you, there's a member of our community whose name is Tony Trutanich, and he's put together a mobile museum. He's got a lot of postcards and artifacts, and he's extremely knowledgeable about it. So it may be worth you reaching out to him and seeing if some of the stuff that he's doing can be done in conjunction with what you're doing. Because as you hear later, he's proposing to actually do a program that involves this mobile museum. So I see Commissioner Klinger's hand up. So go ahead, Commissioner Klinger.
Thank you, Chairman Rocco. You partially read my mind, because I did have a motion that I was going to make to staff later on, covering some of the very extended things that you've mentioned. I did want to eventually, I was planning to make a motion at the end for staff, for staff person Harding. What would be the procedure for commissioners to be able to take items out of the museum, or to be able to help sort through some of the items of the museum and help staff through it? I think earlier we mentioned some kind of training, potentially if Commissioner Zaramsky involved in that or something like that. So I was hoping, so maybe the three of us could work on that with staff person Harding to establish what the guidelines are.
That's acceptable. For me, I would put your motion in the staff recommendations, because it sounds like we could actually get something fully on the agenda if it's, it gives you time to think about how you want to word it by the time we get there. And then you can deal with it. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. Commissioner Russell.
Yeah, one other item that I think it's been mentioned a couple of times is I believe there is like an Excel list or like an Excel doc of all of the items in this inventory. So I just want to make sure that doesn't get like forgotten or lost. If we do have access to that, it might be a great starting point, and then for maybe creating some sort of process based off of that. I don't know if you know where that is.
It's on a really old computer that we don't even know if works. So once we get into the library, we'll be able to look for it. I've seen hard copies, and that's something that I can get to people, but I'm not even sure. As you said, with the presidential letters, it may be in storage, the secret storage, wherever Commissioner Klinger thought it was the previous time. There may be other storage places. So once we get in, we can look for it and start figuring out, do we still have this in our collection? And there's also some other pieces of the collection. So yeah, that's something that, again, Commissioner Klinger wants to make his recommendation to the staff. Director Harding.
Thank you, Chair. It just so happened I was meeting with our technical staff over at the Performing Arts Center, and he informed me that prior to the pandemic, or maybe just after the pandemic, a large amount of museum items were stored over at the Performing Arts Center. So that might be a good place for us to, and we can chat offline if you'd like, Commissioner Klinger. I have no problems at all providing access to you and any other commissioners to get into the museum or to the Performing Arts Center. And we can just work out the logistics on how to do that and when to do that and all that online. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we can work that out.
And Director Harding, just so you know, I did take pictures up there before the pandemic. So I shared them with the former Community Services Director, Joyce Maddox, before she left. And so that's still available for you to look at if you want to, because it's a very narrow set of stairs to get there, and it's mixed in with other things. Commissioner Klinger, I see your hand up again.
Yep. I love that set of stairs. It's quite challenging. I've been there. And I like the Makoa sign behind you, Director Harding. That's cool. So, I mean, I would love that to offline about it and flesh out the outline of how we can make this work, because you have a lot of historical commissioners that are willing to put in their time and volunteer to get this done. And I think that it could really revitalize a couple of the subcommittees and also move things forwards a little bit, and more importantly, get the K-12 students enticed and get some of the older students / parents into it as well. So that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is anything more on the Traveling Museum? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one, which is the Path of History. And this one's an update as well. So as you may recall, we voted to move forward with at least one sign and try to get the release of CIP funds that have been set aside for it. We have been offered a contract with the design firm that did the 5 prior signs to work with us on that. And I understand the contract is with the city attorney for review, and Director Harding's shaking his head. So once that contract, and I think it has to go to the city council for vote, we will be able to move forward on the process. I've started drafting pages. We've talked about a virtual path of history, which is really one of the purposes. So I've started drafting different versions of the markers, the proposed markers, and a little description so people can get interested in it. I've sent a sample over to Director Harding for his review. Once he okays the format, then I'm going to be submitting these pages to the committee for their input. And if they want to actually participate in drafting some of these, that'll be great. And then once the committee makes the recommendation, we'll go back to Director Harding and say, okay, these are all the ones. So there's about 38 of them. And you'll be happy to know, Commissioner Klinger, that the first one deals with the Salt Lake, which is the California State Historical Landmark 373. And it's sitting right now outside. It's not the traditional landmark where you see the brown sign, but it's there. So that's kind of what's going on there. We are trying to collect images. So anybody in the public who has images for the different things that are identified on the path of history, we would love to be able to get images. We will need volunteers to write text. So that's on the horizon with it. And then as far as fundraising goes, so we don't actually have to get additional approval on it. The initial Path of History fundraising items were set out over a decade ago and were approved. What we're trying to do is get people to be lead sponsors for a donation of $2,000. And then we had promised, and we're still promising on the website apparently, that if you donate $1,000, you get your name on the marker. And if you donate $10,000, you are the exclusive sponsor of a sign. And because we may have other monies coming in, we get to pick the sign that they get to be on. So that's kind of still the same. And we will put anybody with a gift of $100 or more on the website as part of them participating in the process. So that's the Path of History. Next one is the budget. And Commissioner Fernandez is going to be busy starting with our next meeting. If you have any ideas of money that you want the city to collect, to set aside for us, think about it between now and the next meeting. Funnel it to Director Harding so that he can funnel it to Commissioner Fernandez so that we can get this process going. We have the assistant of the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, who used to be part of our commission, that said he's willing to work with Commissioner Fernandez to help us through this process so that we can get the things that we want to get. Okay. Anything you want to add, Commissioner Fernandez, on this? We lost him. Commissioner Klinger, I see your hand up.
It's a common sight. It's a common sight, and probably a common sight. So just a fun bit of historical trivia. The Joint Fundraising Subcommittee that Commissioner Fernandez is on, the person that he's contacting on the Budget and Finance Committee was also started out at that Joint Fundraising Subcommittee. So just thought that would be a fun historical tidbit because this is the Historical Commission.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any more comments on the budget? Okay, so then we're moving on to technology and website. Is there any report from anybody on that committee? Okay, no report. Then we'll move on to historical murals. Okay, so we're actually making some progress on this one. We have a representative from the Parks and Recs Commission, which is Commissioner Arata. We have now somebody from Public Arts, which is Commissioner Sharma. I actually last week went over to, coincidence, happened to be in the city of Lompoc, and they have about 40 huge murals that they have done in the city, ranging from mostly historical themes to agricultural themes. So I'm going to try, and they do it in private and public partnership. So I'm going to reach out to them to see if they have any processes or guidelines of how it works in their city. Their materials say that it's about a $10,000 to $40,000 commission to pay to these artists, and the artists do the design, and there's actually community members who do the painting with the artists. So that's giving me an opportunity. And they do something really kind of cool is they actually have a brochure that they put out about each of the murals, when it came out, who the artist is, And it's just fascinating. If you look at the mural, you actually see they have a whole Provence on the mural itself. So that's the report from the historical murals. Any comments? Okay, not seeing any. Writing competitions and scholarships, there's no report on that. Pitches. So anybody see any volunteer projects that they would like to see volunteers work on? Just feed to Director Harding so that we can start exploring how to get volunteers to actually, that aren't on a commission, to do some of these projects. Marketing. So I've actually asked Director Harding for permission to go into the museum and get copies of the brochures that we have out there, get some of the, and see if I can reach out to some of the chamber people to see if they have graphic artists that can actually provide assistance or suggestions so we can get updated brochures. Right now, from what I recall, there's a 8.5, 11 piece that's folded out, and there are little cards over there. So we don't have anything really fancy that promotes the museum to anybody who wants to come visit our community. So it's an opportunity to do that. And then we go to museum improvement. Okay, so I also got a chance to go to the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. And the thing that impressed me about them is their signage. And if you've ever been in our museum before the pandemic, you would notice that our signage is doesn't look professional, and it takes away from what we're going to do. So I'm proposing that if anybody wants to volunteer to work with me on either creating signs or figuring out what would be an effective way of posting the signs, welcome to have your involvement in it. So that's in the museum improvement. This is not official subcommittee, but we've talked about it, and it's more, I'm mentioning this now as a placeholder, and that is the museum reopening. And I assume that we're going to be hearing from Director Harding in a little bit about what's going on with that. But the piece that I do want to at least put in here is, last meeting we talked about the city's volunteer packets. And so I'm going to be encouraging all of you to, once we get them from the city, to submit them so that at least we'll all be cleared for participation as a volunteer on the matter. Do you want to talk about the reopening now, or do you want to save it for your director's report? Director Harding.
Whatever is your preference. I can do it now if you'd like, or we can save it.
Why don't we do it now?
Okay.
It's all oral.
Sounds good. So yeah, we have been trying hard to hire some part-time staff so we could get the museum reopened. We thought we had somebody moving along in the right direction, and unfortunately they decided to pull out. So we've kind of shifted to a plan B. We're coming to the end of our summer camps and programs. And a lot of our part-time staff was out in the field doing, whether it was park camps or beach camps or sport camps or whatever. So now that we're coming to the end of the summer season, a lot of those folks are going to be looking for hours. So we're hoping to transition some of those folks and get them trained so we can move them into the museum. But as Chair Morocco mentioned, I am wide open to the possibility of having volunteers serve as, maybe docents or something. I know they do that pretty successfully up at the Interpretive Center up in Rancho Palos Verdes. Obviously, we would have a lot of details and logistics to work out there, but I think it's definitely a viable option, and we'll continue to try and hire some part-time staff to be there as well. The volunteer application process is a relatively simple one. There is an application packet. I believe it's on the city's human resources website. But I will also be sure to get a copy of it and email it out to all of you. After the application is submitted, you can submit that directly to me. And then the city does require a background check, which is done via live scan. Also, I want to mention in terms of volunteers, we are also reaching out to our older adults community. Several of them from the senior centers expressed an interest in possibly volunteering, some in this capacity. Some are still a little bit hesitant as they're in a vulnerable population with the pandemic and with the Delta variant coming back on strong, but some seem to be very open to the possibility of volunteering and volunteering at the museum. So I'm hoping that may get some momentum, and that may be a good route for us to take. And as I mentioned in the interim, we'll keep working as hard as we can to get some part-time staff over there as well.
Thank you very much, Director Harding. Any questions on that? Okay, we're moving on to the last of the subcommittee reports, and this is more of an update than just a report. So for those of you who don't know, the city approved renaming the park at the corner of Flagler and Ripley and Havemeyer, and so it's now the Ito family open space. So if anybody's interested in helping with the dedication and signage, that's the next steps on that process, please let Director Harding know so he can let me know. So if everybody wants to do it, then we can at least narrow that down. If nobody wants to, then we'll just keep on working the way we are. So that's that on that. So now I'm looking for a motion to receive and file all these oral reports.
Moved.
Commissioner Klinger disappeared as he moved, and Commissioner Fernandez has seconded. Oh, there you are. Why don't we just, any discussion before we take a roll call vote? Okay, let's take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Klinger.
Aye.
Commissioner Warstad is absent. Commissioner Zaremski.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Aye.
Commissioner Pepper is absent. Commissioner Fernandez.
Aye.
And Chair Morocco.
Aye. Okay, great. So we're actually moving along. We are now moving to the, I guess that means it's unanimous. We're moving to the director's report. So I'm going to turn this over to Director Harding.
Thank you, Chair. You crossed off a few of the things on my list for me. I thought you did a great job in the subcommittee report, updating the commission on the path of history. I reached out to the city attorney's office today, and I believe they're hoping to review that sometime this week, and hopefully I'll hear back from them next week. And then we can take it on to City Council for approval, as Chair Morocco mentioned. Chair also mentioned that the corner, the parkette at Flagler Ripley was renamed, and I just want to congratulate this commission on all the work you put in making that happen. I thought that was a great project, and I'm very excited to see that happen. So congratulations. We talked about museum reopening. You may have seen an email from the city clerk's office. You will all be receiving business cards sometime next month, probably to the middle or later part of the month. The business card will have a generic email on there that will come to our office. And it will also have a phone number that will come to the community services office. We will then, if the matter can be handled administratively, if it's an easy question or something like that, we'll handle it administratively. But if it's something specific to one of your subcommittees or something like that, we'll forward that on to the appropriate person. let's see. We are also looking into the possibility of selling some of the postcard books at our community services office. We are looking in, we got a new registration software that's a very user-friendly and powerful software system. So we're researching ways to sell the postcard books through that software, and that would assist us with the sales tax and tracking purchases and inventory and things like that. So we're looking into that. Right now, our offices are only open 2 days a week. We're looking at getting back to 4 or 5 days a week, hopefully next month, as our summer staff trickles back in from being out in the field and back in the offices. The good and bad of the software system that I mentioned, at least in regards to the postcard books and potentially selling them in the office, is the software system allows for a lot more of our services to be done online, which means less foot traffic in the office. But maybe something to explore and look into is, some sort of advertising or something, and selling the books online, and maybe they can come in and pick them up or something like that. But we are looking into that, and I wanted to make sure the commission was aware of that. You also may have heard that there will be a commissioner training September 28th of next month. So please make sure you get that on your calendars. I don't have a lot of detailed information on it quite yet. I reached out to the city clerk's office today, and they said they will be reaching out to the commissioners in the next few weeks with more details. And finally, I believe it was Chair Morocco alluded to it, but we were contacted by a local resident who has acquired a lot of historical footage of the city and is working on putting that together in some sort of film or documentary, is my understanding. We are in talks with him, and we'll reach out with him and kind of exploring some ideas on how to present those films to the public, whether it be, a movie on the pier or a movie in the park, or part of a bigger historical event, maybe at the historical library at Veterans Park or something like that. So very exciting. We're kind of exploring some ideas there, as I mentioned, and I will definitely be sure to keep the commission updated on that. And with that, happy to answer any questions or comments.
Commissioner Klinger, go ahead.
Thank you. So on the new business cards, are we getting titles? And if so, can mine be Master of Disaster? Joking aside, I remember every year before COVID, we used to have like a city commissioner party where the city council members, the commissioners, the aspiring commissioners would all get together. I'm just wondering if there could be like an update on that, or if you've heard anything about that, Director Harding.
I have not heard anything about it, but I will reach out to the city clerk's office and see if there's been any talks on it.
Cool. And then when I was kind of a newbie on the Historical Commission, I remember that our biggest event was the City Day, like the day of Redondo Beach, and we'd all have cars lined up in front of the Historical Museum, ice cream, cakes, and then of course there were some green stuff for the healthy people. And it was just a great day to have. So maybe once we get the City Day back, maybe that would be a good idea to show Tony Tertanic's movie towards that day, just a suggestion. And then I do have a motion from what was earlier on. Is this where we make referrals to staff, or is it the next section?
Next section, we're still addressing the questions for the director's report.
Okay, so that's it for me, and thanks so much for your report, Director Harding.
Okay, and I do have some follow-up points. Are Are we going back to a monthly meeting? Have you heard anything from the city about, because that temporary thing was through the end of September. So are we going back to monthlies?
I did this commission historically, pardon the pun, did you typically meet on a monthly basis? I hadn't heard. I know
Yes.
Okay. I'll check with the city clerk's office. I know that the Parks and Rec Commission is going back to a monthly meeting, but that was a part of the city's 2021-2022 budget. There was a motion as part of the budget, and it specifically called out the Parks and Rec Commission. I'm not sure any of our other commissions are going back monthly, but I will verify with the city clerk's office.
Great. And then is the council chambers open for meetings at this point? Or are we going to have the next one on Zoom again? Or is they're going to finally move it over to council?
You know, funny you should ask. We were just talking about that in a meeting this morning. We are hoping to get trained on the new technology that was improved as part of the city council chambers. I wouldn't call it a renovation, but improvement project as soon as next week or within the next couple weeks. After that, we will be training commissioners, council members, et cetera, on the new technology as well. So as much as I wish I could guarantee your next meeting will be in person, I'm just not sure how long all that training is gonna take. So.
Okay. And then this is more, you mentioned the commissioner training in September. Commissioner Fernandez, you weren't at the last meeting, but the video that the Brown Act training that the city attorney did, you can get it on the video, as well as any other commissioner who wants to review it. So it is out there. And Director Harding mentioned the selling of books. We get a royalty on it. If you looked at that little budget statement, you'll see that every book we sell, we're supposed to be getting something. We haven't been really pushing the sales. If you go to the local bookstores, you probably won't even find the Redondo one, but we do actually get royalties, and ultimately we may want to discuss how to get our book in more generally out there so that it doesn't fall on the city to sell all the books. And then lastly, on the Tony Tretanich thing, he actually made a very interesting proposal, and he's paying for a lot of it out of his own budget. I would encourage you, if you do like watching history, he's done some excellent short videos that you can find on YouTube. He's got a website set up, which he hasn't fully launched, but his YouTube, History of Redondo Beach, you should be able to find it. Has some really good, interesting videos on it. So that's what I have to add to this. So thank you. Before we move on to the next thing, City Clerk, was there any public participation or comment for either the subcommittee reports or the director's report?
There are no public comments or any attendees.
Great. So can I get a motion then to receive and file the director's report?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Klinger, anybody second?
Second.
Is that Commissioner Russell? I don't know who seconded it.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Okay, you're not on my screen, so thank you for clarifying. Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Klinger.
Aye.
Commissioner Warstadt, absent. Commissioner Zaremski.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Aye.
Commissioner Pepper is absent. Commissioner Fernandez. That's an aye. And Chair Morocco.
Aye. Okay, so we are basically on to the last part of the meeting, which is member items and referrals to staff. I'm going to go with the people that are on my screen in the order I see. And then there's a couple people I think who are not on the screen. So we'll start with Commissioner Fernandez. Do you have any items for staff?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Klinger.
Yes, I do have a single motion. I was going to mention the presidential letter, but that was mentioned quite often. So it's great that we're keeping track of finding the track to get that find on track. I'll probably start with the funds now. So my motion is to offline with Director Harding and Chair Morocco to create an outline for a process of how historical commissioners can be able to inspect, document, and check out historical items and introduce them to the community, and set the outline that we're going to create up for discussion at our October meeting for it to be one of our agenda items.
Okay. Is there a second? Not seeing a second.
I feel so lonely.
I'll second that.
That's Commissioner Russell. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion to agendize putting some sort of protocol in place with regards to items in the museum? Is that
the historical commissioner's ability to inspect, document, and check out historical items and introduce them to the community?
Okay. Who's ever taking minutes will get it, and I'm sure we'll pick it up on the corrections. So it's been moved and seconded. Can we get a roll call vote on that to agendize it?
Sure. Commissioner Klinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Warstad absent. Commissioner Zaremski?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Aye.
Commissioner Peppers absent. Commissioner Fernandez?
Aye.
And Chair Morocco.
Aye. Okay. That's great. Anything else, Commissioner Klinger?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, then I'm moving on to Commissioner Zaremski. Any items from staff?
No, thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner Russell, anything for staff?
Just that, as I kind of alluded to earlier, I'm going to be moving out of the city of Redondo Beach, sadly, in the middle of next month. So by all likelihood, this will be my last meeting with the commission. I wasn't sure if there was any sort of procedure or anything I need to do to formally let the group know or the commission know or anything like that.
The process, first of all, as I said before, we're going to miss you, but the process is to send a letter to the city clerk telling them that you're resigning. You're not officially resigned until the city council picks it up and accepts it as being resigned. They're in the process of appointing new commissioners across the board, and I think September 25th is the date that they're actually going to do it. So you may want to, if those plans are firm and you can't convince your wife to stay, you may want to just send something off sooner than later so that we can have a full commission. But again, I appreciate all the work that you've done. And if anybody else wants to chime in and thank Commissioner Russell, please, this is a good time to do it.
I'm sure you're going out seconding an epic motion, mine, and that's the way to go out.
Okay.
We'll put that in the record. No, generally, thank you, everybody. It's been an amazing opportunity to work with you all. I think I've accomplished at least a little bit and sometimes quite a bit with just about everybody here. So I appreciate all the guidance and leadership as a newbie here that I got to experience. Oh, and I also don't need business cards if I was on the list. So I just want to make sure that gets taken care of as well.
On a more serious note, I do want to say thank you. You're one of the best subcommittee members I've had. And it was really fun working with you. So don't give up. Maybe the Hermosa Beach needs a historical commission. Maybe we could start like getting the Beach Cities Historical Commission together. So don't be a stranger as you're going to Hermosa.
I absolutely will not.
And I will echo Commissioner Klinger. Hermosa's actually got a beautiful library over there. And the staff person that works over there is absolutely wonderful. So you'll find her a very good person to work with and get to know. It's by the basketball gym over there that they have all the youth basketball. So it's an interesting museum. Anything else, Commissioner Russell?
No, I think that was it. It's just as long as there wasn't any like last minute items or follow-up items you needed from me, but I tried to cover everything earlier in the meeting.
Now, you actually were great with the stuff that we were getting through the process, so it's all percolating right now. I have one item on my list, and that is to Director Harding. If you can convey the thank yous again to the library for making available copies of the historical context statement. I passed it out, distributed it to the rest of the commissioners, and it's a really good resource for information. The library actually some wonderful resources if anybody's interested in history. With that, I'm still under an hour, so we're doing really well. So I just get to read the next part. I'm going to be looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting of the Redondo Beach Historical Commission will be a regular meeting held on 7 p.m. on October 20, 2021. It says on this agenda packet that it's going to be at the Redondo Beach Council Chambers, or it's going to be via teleconference. So we'll know as we get closer to that. So if there's a motion to adjourn, I'd like to hear it, and then I'll look for a second.
Motion to adjourn and adjourn.
Did Commissioner Russell say that he wants to move to adjourn?
I did.
Okay, then we're going to have that be your motion, and Commissioner Klinger can second it, so you now can say that he seconded you as well. Any objection to adjourning? Okay, there are no objections. I don't think we need a roll call on this one. So we stand adjourned. Thank you very much for participating tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.